The dust hung thick in the air as Captain Dae-Sung Kim kicked open the final door. His rifle was up, his finger resting on the trigger. Behind him, 5 soldiers moved in perfect formation, their boots crunching on broken glass and debris. The Krill outpost had been abandoned in a hurry. Tables were overturned, computer screens still glowing with half-finished reports, food rotting in the mess hall. Something was wrong. "Clear left," whispered Lieutenant Bo-Mai Park, her weapon sweeping the shadows. "Clear right," responded Corporal Jin-Ho Lee, his heavy frame blocking the doorway as he checked the corners. Dae-Sung had done this 100 times before. Every abandoned Krill facility was a potential trap. Sometimes they left bombs. Sometimes they left snipers in the walls, waiting for humans to get comfortable before opening fire. He trusted nothing about the enemy. Not after what they did to his brother at Arcturus Station. Not after the images he saw of human colonies turned to ash. They moved deeper into the bunker. The lights flickered overhead, running on emergency power. The air smelled like copper and something else, something sweet and rotting that Dae-Sung could not name. His squad communicated with hand signals now, knowing that words carried in these metal corridors. Private Hai One's song covered their rear, her young face tense with concentration. This was only her 4th mission. The final room was a storage chamber, or at least that is what the schematic said. Dae-Sung pressed his back against the wall beside the door. Jin-Ho stood opposite him, ready. Bo-Mi held up 3 fingers. 2 fingers. 1. They burst through together. Dae-Sung saw movement in the corner and his training took over. His rifle snapped up, red targeting dot finding center mass. His finger tightened. Then he saw what he was aiming at and his breath caught in his throat. 6 pairs of eyes stared back at him. Not the cold, calculating eyes of Krill soldiers. These were wide with terror, gleaming like mirrors in the dim light. The creatures huddled together in the corner, their chitinous plates dull with dust and neglect. The largest one, maybe the size of a human teenager, spread its 4 arms wide over the smaller ones. It was shaking so hard that Dae-Sung could hear the rattling of its armor plates. "Captain?" Bo-Mi's voice was tight. Her weapon was still raised. Dae-Sung did not answer. He was staring at the smallest one, barely bigger than a human toddler. It was crying, making a high-pitched whistling sound that reminded him of a tea kettle. Its tiny hands clutched at the older one's leg. These were children. Enemy children, yes, but children all the same. "Standing by for orders, sir," Jin-Ho said. His voice was flat, professional, but Dae-Sung caught the edge in it. Jin-Ho had lost his daughter 3 years ago when the Krill bombed the settlement on Novo Prime. His wife had died in the same attack. Dae-Sung knew what Jin-Ho was thinking because he was thinking it too. These were the offspring of the species that had killed people they loved. The older alien child made a sound, a series of clicks and whistles. It pointed at the smaller ones, then at itself, then made a cutting motion across its throat. The meaning was clear, even without words. "Take me, spare them. They are just kids," Haewon whispered from behind. Her voice cracked slightly. "They are Krill," said Private Min-Woo Kang, the squad sniper. He had not lowered his weapon. "They will grow up to kill humans. That is what they do." Dae-Sung's mind raced. His orders were clear. Eliminate all hostiles. Secure the facility. The Krill did not take prisoners. They did not show mercy. When they raided human ships, they killed everyone, even the children. Military doctrine was absolute on this point. In war, sentiment got you killed. But these were not soldiers with guns. They were terrified children hiding in a storage room. "How old do you think they are?" Bo-Mi asked quietly. She had lowered her rifle slightly, though she still kept it ready. "Does it matter?" Min-Woo shot back. "Yeah," said Jin-Ho, surprising everyone. "It does." The big man stepped forward, and the alien children cringed back. The oldest one hissed a defensive sound, but did not move from its protective position. Jinho knelt down slowly, setting his rifle on the ground. He reached into his pack and pulled out a ration bar. He broke it in half and held it out. The alien children did not move. The oldest one's eyes flickered between the food and Jinho's face, trying to understand if this was a trick. Captain Dae-Sung Kim. The radio crackled to life. It was Commander Yoon back on the ship. Status report. Orbital scans show Krill warships approaching your position. You have 18 minutes to complete mission objectives and reach extraction point. Confirm. Dae-Sung pressed the transmit button. Confirmed. Situation is complicated. Explain. Dae-Sung looked at the children, then at his squad, then at the door they had come through. 80 minutes. Orders were orders. The Krill were coming back, probably to retrieve whatever they had left behind. If his squad was still here when those warships arrived, they would all die. He could follow protocol. 6 quick shots. No witnesses. No complications. Just another day in a war that had already taken so much from everyone. Or he could choose something else. Lower your weapons, Dae-Sung said. Sir? Domi stared at him. I said lower your weapons. We are not killing children today. Minwoo's jaw clenched. This is a mistake, Captain. Maybe, Dae-Sung replied. But it is my mistake to make. We are taking them with us. The alien children watched this exchange with confusion. They did not understand the words, but they understood the body language. The weapons were pointing down now instead of at them. The oldest one's whistling changed pitch, becoming something that sounded almost like a question. Dae-Sung stepped forward slowly, his hands raised and empty. He pointed at the children, then at himself, then at the door. Come with us. The oldest alien tilted its head, its large eyes searching his face for deception. Then, slowly, it nodded. The silence in the bunker was heavy after Dae-Sung gave his order. Baomi was the first to speak, her voice low and urgent. Captain, do you understand what you are doing? This is not just breaking protocol. This is treason. They will court-martial you. They might execute you. Dae-Sung checked his rifle and slung it over his shoulder. Then they will have to execute the whole squad, because we are all making this choice together. No, Baomi said sharply. We are not. You are the commanding officer. You gave an illegal order. We can refuse it and file a report when we get back. The alien children huddled closer together, sensing the tension, even if they could not understand the words. The smallest one was still crying, that strange whistling sound filling the room. Dae-Sung turned to face his lieutenant. They had served together for 4 years. She had saved his life twice. He had saved hers 3 times. They trusted each other completely, but trust only went so far when orders and conscience collided. You are right, he said. This is my decision. Anyone who wants to follow standard protocol can stay here. I will take full responsibility. But I am not killing children today, and I am not leaving them here to die when the Krill come back. Jinho picked up his rifle and stood beside Dae-Sung. I am with the captain. You? Minwoo stared at him in disbelief. Your daughter died because of them. Your wife died because of them. How can you protect these things? Jinho's face was hard as stone. My daughter was 8 years old when she died. That one there? He pointed at the smallest alien. Looks about the same age to me. Different species, same innocence. I did not protect my daughter. Maybe I can protect someone else's child. One stepped forward next. I am in too. My parents did not raise me to murder children, human or otherwise. Minwoo looked at them all like they had lost their minds. The Krill do not think like us. They do not feel like us. These things will grow up and kill humans. That is what they are programmed to do. Maybe, said Daesung. Or maybe if we show them something different, they will be something different. Either way, I am not finding out by shooting them in a storage room. The radio crackled again. Captain Kim, 16 minutes to extraction. What is your status? Daesung pulled out his translation device, an old model that could handle about 40 alien languages poorly. He knelt in front of the oldest alien child and activated it. The device beeped and whirred as it tried to make sense of the Krill language. Can you understand me? Daesung asked. The alien child's mouthparts moved strangely. The translation device stuttered, then produced a broken sentence. Understand, small. Learn human words from. Sky voices. Propaganda broadcasts, Daesung realized. The Krill probably intercepted human transmissions and used them to teach their people about the enemy. This child had learned human language from stolen signals. What is your name? Trilka. The device translated after a moment. The alien's real name was a series of clicks and whistles, but the device did its best. Trilka, we are not going to hurt you. Do you understand? We are going to take you away from here. The alien child's eyes narrowed with suspicion. Humans kill Krill. Always kill. Why not kill? It was a fair question. Daesung did not have a good answer. Because you are children. Because it is wrong. Trilka made a sound that the translator could not interpret. Then she spoke again, her voice clearer this time. Warships come. Warships find humans here. Warships kill humans. Leave us. Save yourselves. We are taking you with us, Daesung repeated. Why? The question was simple but profound. Why would an enemy show mercy? Daesung thought about his brother, about Arcturus Station, about all the reasons he had to hate the Krill. Then he thought about what his brother had been like before the war, when he still believed that humanity could be better than its worst impulses. Because someone has to stop the killing, he said finally. Even if it is just in one room, on one day, with 6 children. Trilka stared at him for a long moment. Then she spoke rapidly to the other children in their native language. They responded with frightened whistles and clicks. She spoke again, more firmly this time, and they quieted. They are afraid, the translator said. They think this is trick. That you take us to torture us for information. We do not torture children, Daesung said, though even as he said it, he wondered if it was true. He had heard rumors about interrogation centers, about what happened to Krill prisoners. He had never investigated too closely because he did not want to know. 14 minutes. Captain Kim, I am ordering you to reach extraction immediately. Baomi was watching all of this with an unreadable expression. Finally, she sighed and unslung her medical pack. If we are doing this insane thing, we should at least check if any of them are injured. The little one sounds sick. She approached slowly, hands visible and empty. The alien children shrank back, but Trilka held her ground. She said something in her language, and the smallest child was pushed forward. Baomi knelt and examined it carefully, using her scanner to check its vital signs. Dehydrated and malnourished, she reported. They have been here a while without proper care. This one needs fluid soon or will not make it. Can you treat it? If the Krill biology is similar enough to the data in my scanner, yes. But I am a combat medic, not a xenobiologist. Do what you can. While Baomi worked, Daesung contacted the extraction team. Warrant Officer Young Sek Choi, this is Captain Kim. Be advised we have 6 non-combatant aliens for evacuation. There was a long pause. Say again, Captain. Did you say aliens? Confirmed. 6 Krill children, ages ranging from approximately 4 to 16 human equivalent years. They are coming with us. Another pause, even longer this time. Captain, my orders are to extract your squad. Nothing else. I cannot authorize. I am not asking for authorization, warrant officer. I am giving you a direct order. You will take these children on board, or I will file an insubordination report that will end your career. Am I clear? Crystal clear, sir. Young Seek's voice was ice cold. But when we get back to the ship, you are going to have a lot of explaining to do. I know. Minwoo finally lowered his weapon, though his expression remained bitter. This is wrong. You know that, right? We are betraying every human who died fighting these things. Maybe, Daesung said. Or maybe we are honoring them by being better than the enemy. I guess we will find out. The radio squawked one more time. 12 minutes, Captain. Krill fighters entering atmosphere. Move now or die there. Daesung looked at his squad and at the frightened alien children. All right, time to run. The corridors of the Krill outpost became a maze of flashing lights and screaming alarms. Automated defense systems had activated, detecting the approaching warships and assuming the facility was under attack. Daesung's squad moved fast, but the alien children slowed them down. The youngest one could barely walk. Jinho solved that problem by simply picking the small creature up and carrying it. The alien child whistled in fear at first, its forearms flailing, but Jinho spoke softly to it in Korean. The words meant nothing to the alien, but the tone was gentle, and gradually the child calmed. It wrapped its thin arms around Jinho's neck and held on tight. Contact front, Minwoo shouted. A defense drone dropped from the ceiling, its weapons pod rotating toward them. Daesung fired 3 quick shots, and the machine sparked and fell. 2 more drones appeared behind them. HFY spun and took them both out with precise bursts from her rifle. They are waking up the whole facility, Bumwe said. The warships must be broadcasting activation codes. Trilka made an urgent series of clicks. The translation device on Daesung's belt stuttered to life. Wrong way. Drones control main path. Need maintenance tunnels. You know another route? Daesung asked. Yes. Lived here 3 months. Know all hidden ways. Daesung made a quick decision. Lead us. Trilka hesitated, clearly torn between fear and the instinct to help. Then she moved forward, gesturing for them to follow. She led them to what looked like a solid wall, but when she pressed a section of the panel, it slid open to reveal a narrow passage. Service tunnel, the translator said. For repairs. Very small. It was small. The humans had to crouch and move single file. The alien children, being smaller and more flexible, had no trouble. They squeezed through spaces that made the humans struggle. Daesung found himself crawling on his hands and knees at one point, his rifle scraping against the walls. 8 minutes, Bumwe called out from behind. We are not going to make it at this pace. Keep moving, Daesung grunted. His knees were already bruising from the hard metal floor. An explosion rocked the facility. Dust rained down from the ceiling, and the lights went red. The translation device squawked as Trilka said something urgent. Warships firing on facility. They think humans still inside. We'll destroy everything. That made a terrible kind of sense. If the Krill thought humans had captured the outpost, they would rather destroy it than let it fall into enemy hands. The fact that they were also destroying 6 of their own children did not seem to matter to them. Why did they leave you here? Daesung asked as they climbed through another tight passage. Where are your parents? Trilka was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, the translation was halting and broken. Parents dead. Government killed them. We are unwanted. Left to die. Better than execution. Looks like accident. What did your parents do? Refused to help make weapons. Biological weapons. For killing humans. Government said they were traitors. Daesung felt something cold settle in his stomach. These children were not just innocent. They were the children of people who had refused to participate in war crimes. They had been abandoned here as punishment, left to die in an enemy attack or from starvation. Either way, the Krill government could claim it was an accident. Another explosion, closer this time. The tunnel shook, and part of the ceiling collapsed behind them. A1 screamed as debris rained down, but she scrambled forward before being trapped. 6 minutes, Captain. They burst out of the maintenance tunnel into a loading bay. The extraction point was visible through the bay doors, about 200 meters across open ground. But between them and safety, 3 defense drones hovered, their sensors sweeping the area. "I am out of ammunition," Minwoo said flatly. "Me too," said Hee-won. Dae-sung checked his magazine. 6 rounds left. Not enough to take 3 drones. Jinho had his grenade launcher, but in this enclosed space, the blast would kill them all. Trilka said something urgent. "Control panel there. Can deactivate drones. Need password, which you do not have," Bomi said. "No, but can guess. Watched officers use it many times. It was a terrible risk. If she was wrong, the drones would kill them all. But they had no other option." "Do it," Dae-sung ordered. Trilka ran across the bay, her chitinous legs moving with surprising speed. The drone sensors tracked her movement but did not fire. She was registering as Krill, not human. She reached the control panel and began entering codes. The drones rotated toward the humans. Targeting lasers painted red dots on Dae-sung's chest. "Whatever you are doing, do it faster," he said quietly. Trilka's fingers flew across the panel. 1 code. The drones moved closer. Another code. The whine of charging weapons filled the air. A 3rd code. The drones dropped from the sky like stones. 4 minutes. They ran. Dae-sung carried one of the younger children now. Ba-mi had another. The alien children were exhausted, their breathing ragged. They burst through the bay doors into the harsh sunlight of Vera 7. The extraction shuttle sat on the landing pad. Engines already warming up. Warrant Officer Young-sik stood at the open ramp, his face a mask of professional disapproval. Behind him, 2 door gunners manned their weapons, eyes scanning the sky for threats. "Get on board," Dae-sung shouted. His squad scrambled up the ramp. The alien children hesitated, staring at the human aircraft with obvious fear. Trilka spoke to them rapidly, and finally they climbed aboard. Young-sik's expression grew even colder when he saw them. "Those are enemy aliens," he said. "Those are children," Dae-sung replied. "Now fly us out of here." "I am filing a formal protest, Captain." "Noted. Now fly." The shuttle lifted off just as the Krill warships broke through the cloud cover. Fighters peeled away from the capital ships, moving to intercept. The shuttle's engines screamed as Young-sik pushed them to maximum burn. "This is going to be rough," he shouted from the cockpit. Plasma fire lit up the sky. The door gunners opened up with their railguns, and the shuttle bucked and weaved through the attack pattern. One of the alien children started that whistling cry again. Hae-won, despite being wounded, sat beside the child and took its hand. "It is okay," she said softly. "We are going to be okay." The child could not understand the words, but it squeezed her hand anyway. A human destroyer appeared above them, massive and angular. The Indomitable opened fire with its main batteries, and the sky became a wall of defensive fire. The Krill fighters broke off, unable to penetrate the barrage. The shuttle docked with a hard clang. As the ramp lowered, a dozen Marines stood waiting with weapons drawn. At their head was Admiral Marcus Reeves, his weathered face twisted with fury. "Captain Kim," he said in a voice like breaking glass, "you are under arrest." Behind Dae-sung, the 6 alien children huddled together, terrified once again. Jinho still held the smallest one, who refused to let go of his neck. Trilka stepped in front of her siblings, protective, even though she was shaking with fear. Dae-sung stood at attention and saluted. "Yes, sir." As the Marines moved to arrest him, he heard Trilka speak one more time through the translator. "Thank you for mercy," she said. "No one ever showed us mercy before." Daesung smiled despite everything. "You are welcome." The brig on the Indomitable was cold and bare. Daesung sat on the metal bench and stared at the wall. He had been here for 3 days now. No visitors except the guard who brought his meals. No information about what was happening to his squad or to the alien children. Just silence and waiting. On the 4th day, the door opened and Bomi walked in. She looked tired, with dark circles under her eyes. "They let you see me?" Daesung asked. "I am being called as a witness at your court-martial. They cannot prevent me from consulting with the accused." She sat down across from him. "It starts tomorrow. The charges are insubordination and treason. They are pushing for the death penalty." Daesung nodded slowly. He had expected this. "How are the children?" "In medical isolation. The doctors are studying them, trying to understand their biology. The smallest one almost died from dehydration, but they stabilized it. Trilka keeps asking to see you. And the squad?" Baomi looked away. "We are all being charged as accomplices. Lighter sentences probably, but it will end our careers." Jinho does not seem to care. He spends every free moment outside the medical isolation ward, watching the children through the observation window. "I am sorry," Daesung said. "I never meant to drag you all down with me." "We made our choice," Baomi replied. "Just like you made yours." "I'm not sure it was the right choice, but it was ours." The court-martial convened in the ship's main briefing room. Admiral Reeves presided, flanked by 2 other senior officers. The room was packed with personnel, all wanting to witness the trial. News of what Daesung had done had spread through the fleet like wildfire. Commander Park Sung-ho, the prosecutor, was a thin man with sharp eyes and a sharper voice. He laid out the case with ruthless efficiency. Captain Kim had disobeyed direct orders. He had endangered his squad. He had given aid and comfort to the enemy. He had violated military law and basic common sense. "The Krill are not human," Commander Park said, pacing in front of the judges. "They do not think like us. They do not feel like us. When we show them mercy, they see weakness. When we spare their young, we are simply creating future soldiers who will kill our children." Captain Kim's sentimentality has compromised military security and potentially cost human lives. The evidence was clear. The mission logs showed everything. The decision to spare the aliens. The order to evacuate them. The confrontation with Warrant Officer Yang Sik. There was no defense against the facts. Then it was time for witnesses. A1 testified first. She was nervous, her hands shaking as she spoke. They were children. Just children. "I joined the military to protect people, not to murder the defenseless. If following orders means becoming a monster, then I would rather be court-martialed." Menwu testified next, and his testimony was different. "I thought the captain was wrong. I still think he was wrong. The Krill have killed millions of humans. They do not deserve our mercy. But," he paused, struggling with the words, "but the captain is my commanding officer. He has earned my trust 100 times over. If he thought this was the right thing to do, then I will stand with him, right or wrong." Jinho's testimony brought silence to the courtroom. He spoke quietly, his deep voice filled with old pain. "My daughter was named Subin. She was 8 years old. She liked to draw pictures of stars. When the Krill bombed Novo Prime, I was off-world on deployment. I never got to say goodbye." He stopped, collecting himself. "I have hated the Krill every day since then. I have killed 17 of them in combat, and I felt nothing but satisfaction each time. When we found those children, my first thought was to pull the trigger. to make them pay for what their species did to my family. So why did you not? Commander Park asked. Because that little one, the smallest child. It reminded me of Subin. Different species, but the same fear in its eyes. The same innocence. And I realized that if I killed it, I would become exactly like the pilot who dropped the bomb on my daughter. Someone who could look at a child and see an enemy instead of a person. Jinho's hands clenched into fists. I did not protect Subin, but maybe by protecting these children, I honor her memory instead of desecrating it with more death. The courtroom was absolutely silent when he finished. Then came the surprise. Commander Park called Trilka as a witness. The alien child walked into the courtroom flanked by guards, and the entire room tensed. She was wearing simple human clothing that fit her poorly. The translation device hung around her neck. She stood in the witness area, small and alone, and her large eyes swept across the hostile human faces. State your name, Admiral Reeves said. Trilka. No family name. Family dead. You are Krill, correct? Yes. And you understand that we are at war with your people? Yes. Commander Park stepped forward. Tell the court why you and your siblings were at that outpost. Trilka spoke slowly, letting the translator work. Her story matched what she had told Daesung, but hearing it in an official setting made it even more stark. Her parents had been scientists. They were ordered to develop a biological weapon that would target human DNA specifically. They refused. For that crime, they were executed, and their children were sent to the outpost to die. We were waiting for death, Trilka said. When humans came, we expected death faster, more painful. But Captain Kim chose different. He chose mercy. The Krill do not practice mercy, Commander Park said. When your warships attack human colonies, they kill everyone. Men, women, children, everyone. Why should we be different? Trilka's mandibles clicked in what might have been sadness. Because if you become like us, then what are you fighting for? My parents died because they wanted to be better than what our government demanded. Captain Kim risked everything to be better than what war demanded. That is what makes humans different from Krill. That is what makes you worth surviving. The words hung in the air. Commander Park had no response to that dot. The trial continued for 2 more days. Expert witnesses testified about Krill biology, about military protocol, about the strategic implications of the incident. But everyone in that courtroom kept coming back to Trilka's words. If you become like us, then what are you fighting for? Finally, the judges retired to deliberate. They were gone for 6 hours. When they returned, Admiral Reeves looked 10 years older. He stood and read the verdict. Captain Daesung Kim, this court finds you guilty of insubordination. We find you not guilty of treason, as your actions, while illegal, were not intended to aid the enemy cause. You are hereby demoted to lieutenant and reassigned to non-combat duty. You will serve no prison time. Daesung stood at attention. It was better than he had hoped. As for your squad, Admiral Reeves continued, they are cleared of all charges. They were following the orders of their commanding officer under combat conditions. Lieutenant Park Bo-mi, Corporal Jinho Lee, Private Hae-won Song, and Private Min-woo Kang are restored to full duty. Bo-mi's breath came out in a rush of relief. This court is adjourned. As the room emptied, Jinho approached Daesung. What are you going to do now? Daesung smiled slightly. I guess I will find out what non-combat duty looks like. What about you? I am going to file adoption papers, Jinho said. For Trilka and her siblings. It will be a legal nightmare, but I do not care. They need a family, and I need, he trailed off. A reason to be better, Daesung finished. Yes. Outside the courtroom, Trilka waited with her siblings. When she saw Daesung, she approached and did something he had never seen a krill do before. She bowed, a very human gesture. "Thank you for teaching me that mercy is strength," she said. "I will remember." "So will I," Daesung replied. The story spread faster than anyone expected. Within a week, every human colony knew about the captain who had spared 6 alien children. News networks could not stop talking about it. Some called Daesung a hero. Others called him a traitor. Protests erupted on Earth and the outer colonies. People held signs that read, "Mercy is strength," and "No child is an enemy." Others held signs that read, "Remember Arcturus," and "The only good krill is a dead krill." The military tried to contain the damage, but the truth kept leaking out. Someone had recorded Trilke's testimony and released it to the public. Her words about choosing to be better than the enemy resonated with millions of humans who were tired of war. But it also enraged millions more who had lost loved ones to krill attacks. Daesung tried to ignore the attention. He had been reassigned to the military academy on Titan, training new recruits. It was quiet work, far from the front lines. He taught basic tactics and weapons handling to young people who reminded him too much of HFY. Most of them were eager for combat, hungry to prove themselves against the krill. Daesung tried to teach them that the hardest battles were not always fought with weapons. 3 months after the trial, something unexpected happened. The Krill Empire sent a message through diplomatic back channels. They wanted to discuss a prisoner exchange. This was unusual. The Krill rarely negotiated. They either won or they died trying. But the message was clear. They wanted to talk. The negotiations were held on a neutral station. Daesung was not involved, but he heard about it through Bo-mi, who had been reassigned to intelligence work. She visited him on Titan and told him the news over coffee in the academy cafeteria. "They are not asking for the children back," Bo-mi said quietly. "What?" "The Krill government. They are not demanding the return of Trilka and her siblings. In fact, a faction within their government is asking that the children be granted asylum." Daesung stared at her. "Why would they do that?" "Because those children are evidence. Evidence that the Krill government executes its own people for refusing to commit war crimes. There is a reform movement growing inside the empire. They want to end the war. They want to negotiate. And they are using Trilke's story as proof that their current government is corrupt." It was almost too much to believe. One act of mercy in one room on one day was rippling outward in ways Daesung had never imagined. "What happens now?" he asked. "The children get to choose. Asylum in human space, relocation to a neutral world, or return to Krill territory under reformist protection. They are meeting with them tomorrow to discuss options." The meeting was held in a small conference room on Titan. Daesung attended at Trilke's request. Jinho was there too, along with representatives from both governments. The children sat together, as they always did, drawing comfort from each other's presence. The human diplomat explained their options carefully, using the translation device. The Krill diplomat, a reformist named Kaltha, explained in broken human language what would happen if they returned to Krill space. "Not safe yet," Kaltha admitted. "Reform movement strong, but not in control. If you return now, old government might kill you to silence the truth. But if you stay with humans, you become symbols. Symbols of hope for peace." Trilka listened to all of this carefully. Then she spoke, her voice clear through the translator. "We choose to stay. With Jinho. With humans who showed us mercy." The smallest child, who had barely spoken since the rescue, added something in their native language. The translator worked. "Jinho is our father now. We want to stay with our father." Jinho's eyes grew wet. He reached out and took the small child's hand. "Then I will do everything I can to make that happen." The adoption process took 8 months. It was complicated by the fact that no legal framework existed for adopting aliens. Laws had to be written. Precedents had to be set. Jinho faced opposition from every direction, but he never gave up. Bame helped him navigate the bureaucracy. A1 testified on his behalf. Even Minwoo, still uncomfortable with the whole situation, submitted a letter of support. In the end, the courts approved it. Jinho became the legal guardian of 6 krill children, the first human to adopt aliens in history. Meanwhile, the peace negotiations continued. They were slow and painful, with both sides reluctant to give ground. But they continued. The reformist faction in the Krill Empire grew stronger, using the story of the abandoned children as evidence of the old government's cruelty. Some Krill soldiers began to question their orders. Some refused to attack civilian targets. The war did not end. Wars never end quickly. But something had changed. A year after the rescue, Daesung stood in front of a new class of recruits. They were young and eager, full of righteous anger about the krill. He recognized that anger. He had felt it himself after his brother died. "Today, I am going to tell you about the hardest decision I ever made," he began. "About the day I found 6 alien children in a bunker and chose not to pull the trigger." Some of the recruits looked interested. Others looked skeptical. One raised her hand. "Sir, were you afraid when you made that choice?" "Terrified," Daesung admitted. "I was afraid I was making a mistake that would cost lives. Afraid I was being weak. Afraid I was betraying everyone who had died fighting the krill." "Do you still think it was the right choice?" Daesung considered that. "I think it was a human choice. The krill would have killed those children without hesitation. But we are not krill. We are human. And being human means sometimes choosing mercy over vengeance, even when it is hard. Especially when it is hard." He pulled up a holographic image. It showed Jinho at a park, surrounded by 6 alien children. They were playing some kind of game, chasing each other and laughing, while making sounds that Daesung had learned to recognize as krill laughter. The smallest one was riding on Jinho's shoulders. That is Corporal Jinho Lee. His daughter died in a krill attack 3 years ago. Those are the children he saved. The children we saved. You tell me, are they the enemy? Or are they just children who needed someone to choose mercy? The classroom was silent. Some of the recruits looked thoughtful. Others still looked angry. One young man in the back spoke up. "But sir, what about justice? What about all the humans the krill have killed? Do we just forgive that?" "No," Daesung said firmly. "We do not forget genocide. We do not forget the people we lost. But we have to decide what we are fighting for. Are we fighting to destroy the krill, or are we fighting to build a future where species can coexist? Because if all we want is destruction, then we have already lost what makes us worth saving." At the back of the room, a door opened quietly. Trilka slipped in, accompanied by Jinho. She had grown in the past year, her chitinous plates darkening with maturity. She was wearing a human school uniform, attending the Academy's civilian education program. Jinho had insisted all his adopted children receive proper education. She raised a hand. "May I speak, Lieutenant Kim?" Daesung smiled. "Of course." Trilka walked to the front of the room. Some recruits tensed at the sight of a krill, but she ignored their discomfort. She had learned to live with human fear and prejudice. "I am Trilka. I am krill. My birth parents were executed for refusing to create weapons of genocide. I was left to die. Lieutenant Kim and his squad saved my life when they had every reason to end it. Every day since then, I have tried to understand why." She paused, her large eyes scanning the young human faces. "I think I understand now. You saved me because you wanted to be better than those who killed my parents. You wanted to prove that humans can choose mercy even in war. That choice changed my life. It also changed the Krill Empire. There is a peace movement now among my people. They use my story to argue for ending the war. All because one human captain chose not to pull the trigger. She turned to Daesung. You taught me that mercy is not weakness. It is the hardest kind of strength. The strength to choose hope over hate, even when hate is easier. One of the recruits raised her hand. Do you hate humans? For the war? For what we have done to your people? Trilka considered the question carefully. I grieve for the Krill who have died, just as you grieve for the humans who have died. But hate? No. Hate is what started this war. Hate is what kept it going. Mercy is what will end it. I choose mercy because Lieutenant Kim taught me to choose it. The class ended in thoughtful silence. As the recruits filed out, several stopped to look at Trilka more closely. One young woman approached hesitantly. My brother died at Novo Prime, she said quietly. I joined the military to avenge him, but you are not what I expected. What did you expect? Trilka asked. A monster. Not a student in a school uniform talking about mercy. Trilka's mandibles moved in what Daesung had learned was a smile. Then I am glad to disappoint you. That evening, Daesung sat with Jinho outside the academy, watching the sunset over Titan's methane seas. In the distance, they could hear the alien children playing with human children, their voices mixing together in the strange music of two species learning to coexist. Do you ever regret it? Jinho asked. The choice you made? Daesung thought about everything that had happened. The trial, the demotion, the controversy, the death threats from extremists on both sides. Then he thought about Trilka speaking to his recruits about mercy, about the peace negotiations that were slowly, painfully moving forward.